few seconds. All right, everybody. Hey, Ed's got a little bit of things he's doing in the background, so effectively, we're going to do Ronald Reagan's speech that was edited, 9 minutes and 8 seconds. But it is disclaimers by Ed Johnston, Saturday, October 27th, 2018. It is currently 5:01 Pacific Standard Time, so let's listen.
Stop to think how unique we really are. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. Mr. President, I want our fellow citizens to know how much you did to carry on this tradition. By your gracious cooperation in the transition process, you have shown a watching world that we are a united people, pledged to maintaining a political system which guarantees individual liberty to a greater degree than any other. And I thank you and your people for all your help in maintaining the continuity which is the bulwark of our republic. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people. Well, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? So as we begin, let us take inventory. We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people. It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is my intention to curb the size and influence of the federal establishment and to demand recognition of the distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and those reserved to the states or to the people. All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government. Now, so there will be no misunderstanding, it's not my intention to do away with government. It is rather to make it work with us, not over us, to stand by our side, not ride on our back. Government can and must provide opportunity, not smother it, foster productivity, not stifle it. If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government. It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. and let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. On the eve of our struggle for independence, a man who might have been one of the greatest among the founding fathers, Dr. Joseph Warren, president of the Massachusetts Congress, said to his fellow Americans, "Our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important question upon which rests the happiness and the liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves." As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it, now or ever. Our forbearance should never be misunderstood. Our reluctance for conflict should not be misjudged as a failure of will. When action is required to preserve our national security, we will act. We will maintain sufficient strength to prevail if need be, knowing that if we do so, we have the best chance of never having to use that strength. Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. Beyond those monuments to heroism is the Potomac River, and on the far shore, the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David. They add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places called Belleau Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Salerno, and halfway around the world on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies and jungles of a place called Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary. On the flyleaf, under the heading, "My Pledge," he had written these words: "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." The crisis we're facing today does not require of us the kind of sacrifice that Martin Treptow and so many thousands of others were called upon to make. It does require, however, our best effort and our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe in our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
All right. Ed, are you ready?
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. And I'm going to be finding the other one that Ronald Reagan has on immigration. That is a real excellent one, and I'll get that one found. Yeah, and so anyhow, we would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's been quite an interesting week. I've just received a court case this afternoon dealing with Colorado and free speech. And I'm going to be posting it out. I've sent it out to a lot of people already. And when you read this, you're going to find this very interesting. It is 50 pages total. But it actually really explains free speech very well, which I comprehend from the headline. Honestly, I did not read it yet, so I haven't been able to go over it. And I got a few other ones that I've received that we'll be getting sent out and put up. And so this is the one thing that keeping the educational information out there for all of us is what the purpose of all this is about, and the education to the children. And that is the one thing that we are paying attention, and they are paying attention, and there's a lot more people paying attention today than what we realize. I mean, when you have 250,000 Americans going to the border, that tells you something right there what's going on. And so people got to pay attention to what's going on with our Constitution, what's going on with the structure of our country right now. People are waking up. They are standing up, and this is the beauty of it. Now, we know that there are a lot of people who do not like this idea about Americans standing up for their rights. You know, we're just supposed to have an open border and open our own arms up and let everybody walk into our country, and that's ridiculous. That's like, you know, going to your home and having somebody come in and sit in your seat and take your remote and grab your beer and tell you these are the new house rules. And that's what these immigrations are all about. These immigrants, they're not here to care for you. It turns out that the 7,500 that are at the border right now that is pushing through Mexico, but Mexico started tear gassing them. But the information that we got from a couple of channels that are reputable, there's over 75,000 backing up and waiting to come charging in. And this is the one thing that people are not paying attention to. Donald Trump did call the military to the border, armed. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, there was shooting at the border, and it was immigrants that were shooting at our military. And to me, that's an act of war, but an act of war has to be done by Mexico itself, as with the deal of, you know, the war procedures are. But when those people fired on our military, I think that's an act of war. And so it's really disturbing that, you know, these men and women are supposed to take these shots at themselves or towards themselves or whatever. We did get confirmation. I think there was 3 killed and on our side, and there was a dozen or 2 dozen on the other side. And so this is what's going on. And it's been on the major stream media and news. People, you know, we are under attack because this is what religion's all about. Open your doors, let them come in, destroy your home, destroy your country. Religion has proven that over the last several hundred years. Even the Christian Crusades have proven that. And so it really always stuns me when people say, I'm a Christian, but then again they endorse the cops, stealing cars, assaulting people, and their attitude, well, it didn't happen to me. But see, that's the sad part about these people. They bury their head in the shadows, and they don't know what they're talking about half the time. And when they're burying their heads in the shadows, they're destroying themselves, their children, and beside our country. And we are living this. This is a reality. This is a fact that's going on. And we have this happening right now today in the United States. And see, the Democrats have been working on this for 20 years. I mean, I witnessed some of this stuff when they were pushing this stuff with Kate Brown started really pushing this stuff back in 2006. And she was really pushing this stuff to open up the borders and that's the one thing because Kate Brown is not a legal governor. And some people say, well, she is the head of a corporation, but, the federal Supreme Court and court cases and federal administrative rules that I've dug up and I've posted out there and brought out clearly states that you have to be born on this soil and you are representing a corporation. And if you dishonor your oath of office representing that corporation, you can go to prison. And so that's what we want to see out of these people. We want to see these men and women go to prison because they don't have these rights that they're doing and destroying our families. And, it's just so frustrating what we're dealing with today. But we are waking up. People are waking up. We have seen a lot of changes. Oregon is really freaking out because the other point is the $13 to $16 billion new taxes that Kate Brown passed through. You haven't even felt them yet. You're not even going to feel them for the next year to 2 years. And then when you see that, when you go register your car, it's going to run you $300. Well, no, it's $125 for a 2-year tag. And I mean, this is ridiculous. They keep raising this stuff up. And the whole point is they're trying to bankrupt this country. They're trying to bankrupt you. They're trying to put you out of work. They're trying to put you out of a home. And that's what these men and women do. They don't care about you. They don't care about themselves. That's obvious. So when we go through this turmoil that we're living, and the kids are caught right in the middle of it because most of these kids are plugged into TV, most of them are plugged into a laptop or their cell phones. And their cell phones, they're not even paying attention or living in reality anyways. And that's the saddest part. They're not living in reality. And so the parents are paying for it, the kids are paying for it, and we're all paying for it. And that's the one saddest part. That's the whole point about the men and women who are actually taking the time and educating their children. Because they're the ones, and their children are the ones who are the future. That is the one thing that people have got to realize, that we've had enough of this garbage. We've been playing this game for too many years. I mean, it's like when I was up there, I watched the Department of Transportation in 2005 come up with $500 million missing out of their budget. CPS came up, Oregon State Department of Children's Services came up with funding that was missing out of the Title IV. That was back in 2003. So, I mean, and that's the point. And I've asked them for the budgets, and a lot of us have done that. And, we get sometimes on deaf ears, and sometimes we get the information. And we are starting to get more and more information, but it's really taking teeth pulling, basically, is what it's taking, the teeth pulling to get this stuff done. And you will notice that a lot of people, a lot of men and women are retiring now. They're resigning, retiring, leaving the public service. Because they're realizing that once these charges go through, and other people have charged, and I understand through the grapevine that somebody brought up to me, that you're going to see a lot of these public employees going to try to cash their retirement out and leave the country because they don't want to be indicted. And they know that's the next point, is their indictment. And this is not a joke, folks. It is coming up. The indictments are real. These things are happening. And it is. We just got another this week. There's been 3 other judges and 4 cops that were arrested in Connecticut. And they're facing human trafficking charges. Putting men and women in jail that shouldn't have been in jail, and that's what they're facing right now. And so this is a reality. It is working. It's taking us a lot of time to get this stuff working, but it is starting to work. And so people need to be proud of what's going on, paying attention to what's going on. Because the future, unfortunately, right now is staring us in the face. The future is, do we have the future of our country? Or do we have the future of the United Nations, the British government, and the German government coming in and dictating to us how we're going to live? And this is a real reality we are living right now. Because they've been trying to call the United Nations in. They wanted to call the United Nations into the border, but Trump said, no, we'll send our military. And that's the proper way the president of a corporation should be running his corporation, compared to Kate Brown, who's the governor of a corporation that is destroying the state, bleeding the state. Attorneys are rape, robbing, and pillaging us and draining us in from the inside out. Because the one thing is, Britain nobody could change the Constitution. But if they could bankrupt you, drain you out, make you sign in fear, intimidation, your rights over to the state corporation or even to a medical facility, and those things are happening. People are getting freaked out, and people have been asked to sign themselves over to the medical facility. I know they tried that with me, and that didn't work. And, it's like, well, we could give you your pain medication if you sign your rights away. But if you sign your rights away and you get caught with anything else in your system beside what is prescribed to you, you don't get no more medication, and you could possibly go to jail. Hey, there's our country working, our public employees working for us, controlling our medical, controlling our homes, controlling our stuff. And then we're fighting the immigration. So it is an interesting structure that we are living today. And so with that, it's like, how are we going to handle this stuff? And we just got to keep filing these instruments. And these people from DHS still need to be filed on by the criminals and by the victims, the injured parties that they have injured. And it is frustrating sometimes, because I've helped out a lot of people. Same with a lot of people on this call, or people listen to this call. They've been around. They've helped other people out. But it does get frustrating when people want to sit there and argue about a point. Either they're going to file the charges, stand up to do what's right for their bloodline, their children, or, it's sad. A lot of people sign their rights over and they don't realize it. I mean, even child support's a scam. We've got the laws on that. They can't tax you. They can't go after you to pay child support, and that's federal law and state law in most states. So that is the one thing that was so frustrating. We're living with this craziness today. And so there are calls going out across the country for resources, to go to the borders, tents, sleeping bags, stuff like that. If you are interested in helping out, please look up online, type in the border situation, and there will be a lot of groups that will come up that are, trying to get the tents down there, plenty of water. Because you figure on the Mexican border, it's pretty dry down there. They don't got much water. And so it's one of those things that if we don't sit there and protect your children, our country, what future do we have? And people are getting upset with Trump because he's calling out this stuff and standing up and doing what the Constitution prescribes him to do under his oath of servitude. And so we can't argue with the man when he's doing his job. And people are freaking out because they don't realize what he's doing. Now, hopefully, I got an email that dealing with some stuff with Kate Brown. I hope that does come through. I hope Session is right, so we'll see what happens in time. But, it's like the election coming up. We know, and I just posted up on YouTube, Facebook, and other stuff dealing with, Amazon is selling voting machines that work, and they're full of everybody's information still today. They were never deleted. Some men and women bought some voting machines, When they got the voting machines, they were fully intact. Everything was there, including everybody's information in it, who they voted for, their address, and everything. So, you talk about privacy. Okay, well, the government just sold your assets off to the general public, basically, is what they're doing right now. So, yes, you go online and buy a new voting machine or a past voting machine, and that's why I don't believe in electronic voting machines at all. I believe the old card punch and hand count needs to be in order. I don't believe in this technical situation that we got with the state of Oregon that you go online and vote because you don't know who's voting online. Nobody does. They're not verifying anything because in the state of Oregon, like some of these other states, they're allowing immigrants to vote. And even Philippines got caught voting in our country. So when people sit there and say these things don't happen, they are done deliberately through the democracy system. And that's the one thing that we have a problem with because we have groups out there, and I watch a lot of these videos, and that's why I was glad when Ronald Reagan stated the republic. We are a republic. And so when these people out there, it's like Hugh's video, when I run his video like tomorrow night, too, I got one that I'll be running, and it really disturbs me because this guy's a college professor. He's a Democrat. And so I'm still trying to track his information down. I did figure out he was a college professor by his videos, by a few things he said and a few things that I've seen posted back and forth on the videos. And yes, I do run back and forth on these things, and I do verify and run checks and to see what's going on and who's posting stuff at times, because you got to keep up on all this stuff. I mean, it's a big world out there, and actually the 48 states is very big. And that's the one thing that we want to be able to keep our food resources. That's the one thing that I did notice in a couple other talk shows that they're talking about subsistence food resources. And I just noticed that here in the last month, a few of the talk shows. I was on a talk show 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and they brought that up, the host did, about subsistence hunting and fishing and food gathering. And I was like, cool. And so I had to chime in when he said that. But this is the one thing that you have to file your rights. You have to file your name. You have to clean up the stuff, what they've done. Now, I've got some stuff that I just sent in to get posted on the website dealing with mortgages and mortgage fraud. And I posted it up on the Facebook pages, Recall Kate Brown, United States for America, Elected and Public Employees Oversight, Civil War 1866 Lawful Bloodline, and as well as new Oregon trackers. And so I posted that information up, and it's very interesting because people are picking up on it. Oh, because people are waking up. Like I said, I got this other First Amendment case. And by the way, we'll get that posted up there soon on the mortgage stuff on new.Oregon Trackers website. And when you watch those videos, what the judge says, what the attorney does, and this is a real live court case where the attorney proved that the bank had no note. So they couldn't try to evict them. They couldn't throw them out. They didn't have evidence. They didn't have proof of a contract. And that's the one thing that people don't realize, that you need proof of a contract. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. That's why what is that called? Your affidavits in commerce. And please, when you write your affidavits, don't forget the 1963 Commercial Code Act. Quote it in there. It's on the internet. Quote it in your paperwork when you're doing that stuff. Because it's very important to use their words that they have to go by. And I know a lot of men and women out there say, don't do that, don't use that, don't do that. And it's like, when people are doing that, people are waking up. We're seeing a lot of development on Facebook where people are finally starting to wake up and share information. People are sharing administrative rules more and more than they were in the past. So things really are waking up. Things are really starting to come together here. And we do have a right on these things. See, and that's the most important thing. And so we got another friend of ours that has a First Amendment case that is being developed right now. He won the original one about 18 years ago. We've had him on the talk show. And so we're going to get more information to him, and we'll get more information because I just got some information sent to me by his supportive team of his new affidavits, and they did file on criminal charges on the clerk finally. And so that was good to see that happen. They're finally moving up, stepping up on some of the other filings on the criminal charges on everybody else. And even though this case is still right now pending in the Supreme Court, but it's going to be pending because, you know, we just got a new Supreme Court justice, so they've got to settle in, figure out what's going on. But his case, realistically, is in the Superior Court, Article 3 court. And they don't know how to handle it because he took it out of the Article 1 court into the Article 3 court after he proved the fraud. So, and eventually we'll have him back up on the talk show so that way he can explain what his progress has been and his progress notes. And the other one is we have a native that we've been dealing with for a long time, Nene. He just sent me his filing, his court cases, and we'll be getting those up on the internet too, because that way, you know, people can see what other men and women are filing, what they're doing. And so I've been on this case or off and on for the last few years. And it is interesting, you know, some of these natives are getting it too. A lot of them are. But you got to remember, these elders that are in the structure, these elders, all right, they're so hooked into democracy and their casinos. And they have the right to casinos and stuff, but we got to get them out of that democracy. Because, you know, the government did owe the Indians multi-billion dollars. So how they solved the issue was, we'll just let them open up casinos. So then they let them open up casinos, and that's what they're trying to do, solve the issue of the money that they owe the natives. Just to keep it in their system, the corporation of the banking industry. And don't forget, we do have money mechanics up there, too, on the bank notes in each state. Each state could only pay their employees out of gold and silver. Technically, that's state and federal law, and we have brought that up to people's attention, and so that is going around right now. You'll see another executive order coming up from Donald Trump here pretty soon on something similar to that one, because he has another one that if they violate their oath, besides the human trafficking, they will go to jail too. So the human trafficking and then violating of oath is coming up. So we do see some sunlight over the ridge. And so that is the beauty of what's going on right now. People think this country is going nuts in a handbasket, but there's a lot of things happening inside that people do not know what's going on. Like I said, there are judges that are being arrested. There are cops that are being arrested. And one of the cops, one of the videos that went out and went viral was over 200,000. The gentleman who was assaulted was a black gentleman by, I forgot what police department it was, but he was assaulted, and he just recently filed criminal charges on them and served it not only to the district attorney of his county, district attorney of his state. So when people are waking up, they are doing this, they are catching on, and it does help with the knowledge that, you know, we're able to pass out there. We're, you know, passing back and forth through other groups. And this is the whole thing. People are waking up. They are standing up. You might not realize it, or you might not see a tremendous difference right now, but you're not inside the mechanism to see how it's working. That's why I always bring up the point. You got to walk out into production and see how the movie's being made. So that's the one thing is that people don't get that one. And like I said, the one movie I do recommend for that one to realize how the courts are, and that is called Interstate 60. It's an hour and 27 or 40 minutes long. It's a good watch of a movie that explains your court systems and how it works. So, I mean, that's the one thing that we do have a lot of positive things going on. And so with that one, I think I'm going to open up the floor, and we'll see if anybody's got comments. And then, like I said, tomorrow night we're hitting the 10th Amendment, or 11th, 10th. And then we got a couple more things I'm going to be putting up here coming up, dealing with the other amendments on some new administrative and new laws that I found on them. So when we do coming down the talk show line here on Sunday night, I'll be posting those as the talk show, and I'll get them posted on the YouTube videos themselves. So that way that information is on the video after we air it. And then I'll post it afterwards, and then that way we'll have all the codes, administrative rules, and that type of stuff all posted. And like I said, the one thing with the mortgage thing that just came up, I do have to give kudos to the Lighthouse Law Club. We do run their videos at times. We do have authorization from them. I'll get back a hold of Mark again, too, because we got a couple connections going on right now on a video he just did. And so I'm doing research on that, and I got to watch that a couple more times, so that way I got that one completely handled, or comprehended, I should say, because I want to make sure on some of these videos. But the Lighthouse Law Club does a lot of good videos. And they do talk about the democracy and the separation of republic. And if you're on their Facebook page, just click subscribe, because they come out with tremendous information when they bring it up. And that was the one thing that when I did post the stuff for the mortgage company, the two videos that I got from them from the courts that they were around and what happened on mortgages, and when they cross-examined the banker admitted that it's fraud in federal court. So we have the videos out there. I did email those out to several people, posted on the Facebook page the last few days, last week, when I got that information. And now I'm posting the other one up on his new Supreme Court case in Colorado on the First Amendment, because this First Amendment is a big deal, because like I said, we've got this other gentleman that has a First Amendment case. And so this is the point. It is working. The Supreme Court is starting to work, not covering up our amendments, apparently. I'm trying to be positive thoughts here, because we have to be positive thoughts on this stuff, because if they're starting to do this, and this new Supreme Court came on this other one for the First Amendment Act, and remember, First Amendment is not just religion, too. So that's why I recommend you to read this court case, because you'll be, I still got to read it myself, totally. I skimmed it, but it's 50 pages long. And so the Supreme Court looks like they're starting to get back to work for the people. So, got to have some type of faith, or positive thoughts, or positive looks, or positive outlooks, or outtakes. Anyhow, what we'll do is, why don't we go ahead and open the floor?
All participants are unmuted.
Anybody got a little comment or any comments they would like to add tonight?
Hey, Ed.
Yeah.
It's Noon, David's daughter.
Yeah.
If judges don't have jurisdiction, do police have jurisdiction?
No, they don't. The only way a police officer has any jurisdiction if you are an immigrant, elected and public servants, registered voter, registered church members. Anyways, we do have the laws, and we'll get some more out to you guys out there too. But the law clearly states that the police have no rights to have contact with lawful bloodline natives in this country. They're supposed to pick up the immigrants, and they're supposed to pick up the criminals of the elected and public employees. That's their job. They're not supposed to hand out tickets and harass the natives. That's why I do have a bill that I got to check on Monday or Tuesday on to see what's going on with that, because I did put the traveler's card bill in for the state of Oregon Territory, so that way we get a traveler's card. Basically, it's an ID card in a sense, but it's a traveler's card, and it's not tied into regulation. And so all you have to do is when you go in, you prove your bloodline. Once you've done all that, you get your traveler's card. It's supposed to be permanent is what I'm trying to work on, or it has to be renewed every 12 years. Not every 8, every 12 years, so it doesn't coincide with the commercial industry ones. And there are solutions to that. So did you have something else you'd like to add into that?
No, thank you.
Okay. So, but you got a valid point there. And so when you're reading and you're watching these educational videos, that is the best thing about the knowledge, because especially at your age, you're learning it now instead of later in life. Sort of like, you know, what we have done, your father has done, you're learning it now, so that way when you become our age, you're smarter than we would ever be at that time. Mm-hmm. So you got to look at the future of what your knowledge is growing by. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, anybody else got any other comments?
Ed, where are the police and judges' jurisdiction?
Okay, police and judges' jurisdiction. That's your question, right?
Yes.
All right. The police, like I said, their jurisdiction is to arrest code breakers. Code breakers means elected and public servants, registered church members, voters, immigrants, because immigrants actually have no rights, and that's what's proven. That's why they've got the military at the border right now. And so the police, go ahead.
So their jurisdiction isn't in D.C.?
Well, no, their foundation is in Washington, D.C. Special Police is out of Washington, D.C., and that's part of the police departments today. Have you ever, you probably haven't watched those videos. I'll try to get a couple of those videos to your dad on the Special Police and how it started, the police departments. That's what me and another gentleman are working on right now. Because we've been asking people, because we're trying to put together all the 48 states and when the police departments actually were founded and when they were started. We are working on that. We just haven't had, we're bouncing back and forth for a lot of other stuff we got going on. So, but like I said, I'll get you guys some of those videos here in the next few days, so that way you can see what's going on, and we'll send you some more information too. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure that you get a lot more information. And I did send your dad that court case on the First Amendment. And so when you guys get a chance, if you guys want to skim through it, yes, I know it's like a book. It is a book, 50 pages. But if you guys could go through that and cross-reference of stuff that you don't know and go on the internet and type in what the words are, you guys will start learning the lawful and legal stuff really quick. And that's the one thing that you guys got in your favor right now compared to what some of us learn later in life, if you see where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, anyhow, anybody else got any more questions?
Yes, Ed.
Go.
My question is, under the Constitution, was it Article 4, Section 4, says that that the government's supposed to take care of us. We're supposed to be guaranteed safety, but it says also as a republic. However, I keep hearing them still bringing up Democrat or democracy.
Right.
The thing is that with that, I mean, if they're supposed to be doing it, I mean, I know they're supposed to make us safe, but it says as a republic is what I'm kind of can't seem to get past.
Well, and that's where Donald Trump is doing what he's doing right now, and apparently, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I do know that Jeff Sessions did put in a warrant for Dianne Feinstein out of San Francisco. So these people are, once we start seeing them fall, we'll see if they fall or not. That's the whole point. And I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did hear that he, what do you call it, did put in a instrument against, what is it, that woman, I can't think of her name, the one that was saying that Kavanaugh supposedly did something to her. Supposedly the lady, yeah, they're filing charges on her for false statements. Yeah, her and that attorney guy.
Both attorneys that were with her are being charged.
Yeah, that I did hear, but I didn't know he was following one on Feinstein too. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I just got that one information day before yesterday, and so I got that from another association that I'm with, and so they're filing criminal charges too. They've been filing criminal charges on these public employees too for the last 10, 15 years, about 10 years, and so people are waking up. And now that we got people in office that are starting to be in office that are, talking and starting to state that we're a republic form of government, we're not a democracy. And Donald Trump actually went off on the air, it was yesterday, when he called the troops to the border, and he was clarifying to CNN, we are not a democracy. We are a republic form of government. What don't you understand? And I loved it. I
wish I could have recorded that. That would have been beautiful to hear.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I did send you some other information on what's going on in Texas. I sent it to you and a few other people down there. And there was a major issue that happened with Texas with amendments or administrative bill, and I forgot what it was. But I messaged that to you a couple days ago.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, these things are working. They are happening. They are getting out. People are standing up. And so the whole process is to make sure that the children have a future. Americans have a future. Sorry to say, but my deal is I'm not worried about immigrants. I'm worried about natives. Because if we don't protect the natives, there is no future for any of us here. And that's why they keep going after the Constitution and try to break it down, especially, what is that group called? The American Civil Liberties Union. They go after people all the time, and I wouldn't trust any of those people.
Ed.
I wouldn't trust any of them.
Hey, Ed, can you define what you call natives?
Huh?
Can you define what you refer to as natives?
Oh, native is 5 or more generations by Constitution. Was founded and structured of Immigration Act of 1774, carried on and passed through the 14th Amendment in 1968. And then also, too, that was redefined at the 1913 Immigration Act from Ellis Island. So 5 or more generations on this soil. So if your daddy was born here and your mommy wasn't, well, you're half-breed. You still have rights. And that's just the way it is. But you got to prove your ancestry. So once you prove your ancestry, now you have standing. And that's the one thing that people need to comprehend, that to get standing, you need to know what your bloodline is. And if you're native, you have rights. And if you're an immigrant, you have privileges, but you have to know how to stand up as an immigrant too. And to stand up for your rights and learn your rights and pass your assets and your knowledge down generations. Because the school districts ain't going to do that for you. And we're going to see what happens, because in the state of Oregon, apparently, next year they're supposed to start teaching the Constitution in the schools. Well, what Constitution are they going to be teaching? That's the scary part to me. Are they teaching the democracy system that the attorneys have been running the state when they passed administrative rule? Oh, what year was that, 2000, that said that the doctors and attorneys and the medical society and owned all your assets? Kate Brown and all them passed administrative rule that says that they own you. I mean, are people not paying attention to these facts? Because these are true facts of what's going on. What these men and women have been passing these administrative rules. And the one thing, too, is interesting. I think I sent you the stuff on Perry. Because Perry said that the one thing is Texas is a Republican form of government, nor would it be anything else. So that is interesting. And you watch some of his other stuff, and it makes you question what he's saying. So it is interesting how all these things tie up together. And like I said, hopefully you did get those messages I sent you and stuff on that. And like I said, when I get a chance, I'll get some of those other stuff sent to you guys too. But the whole point about all this is making sure that you have freedom. Know what freedom is. Especially freedom from religion. No offense to the religious folks. But all that does is trap you into mind control stuff. And then once people start figuring that one out and stopping it, it's like Christmas, Halloween, all that stuff. They're all satanic holidays. Halloween it's not Halloween. Everything goes back hundreds of years or 1,000 years. No, it doesn't. It's only been around for the last couple hundred years. That's it. Never been around longer than that. And so when people go out and talking about stuff, and they don't even research real history. They don't learn real history. That's the saddest part about most people. They want to quote stuff that they're reading, but they don't verify it. They don't check it out to verify if it's real or not. And so it is interesting times we are living in today. So, anybody else got anything else? Nope. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll just call it an early evening tonight then. So, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us. We'll catch up with you all soon, tomorrow night, and then I'll get the other information out, and the other cases that I've been talking about, we'll get those out and up on a wall. And the case on mortgages, oh, that's right, I did send that to you too. And you got to read that case on mortgages, what I sent you. It explains a whole bunch of stuff that you asked for something, now you got it, the way I can say it. So anyhow, with that, I'd like to say thanks all for joining. Thank you for attending, and may the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, Mother protect you, give you birth and life, and may the Creator look over all of us.
Thank you, Ed. Well, thank you for listening to Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. We're pleased to have brought information, and as Ed said, it is basically a war down there on the southern border. It may not be a war with Mexico, it's basically a war with Soros. George Soros.
Down in Guatemala.
George Soros paid actual UN Army trained individuals to lead this. Over $500 million was paid towards them. So you think they're going to stop just because of a little bit of pew pew? No, that's what they live for. So we're being invaded by a terrorist group.
Yep.
We are already invaded by a terrorist group known as democracy. You got to look at this, guys. We are already invaded, both foreign and domestic. That is what we're supposed to protect the country from. Domestic's here. It's already a cancerous growth in our infrastructure. You got to focus on that, find out where it is, and cut it out non-violently. You got to do it with their own way, their own ways, like in martial arts. Use their strength against them. So with that, it is currently 5:56 Pacific Standard Time. It is Saturday, October 27th, 2018, and you have been listening to The Disclaimers by Ed Johnston, and we'll see you tomorrow with Education by Ed.